Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Speak, Film, and Enter, a podcast where we review and rank movies. I'm Nate.
And I'm Dylan.
Today, we are reviewing the brand new movie musical experience thing from Kid Cudi, project that's on Netflix right now.
Yeah.
It's interesting how I don't think it says it's a movie on Netflix or Rotten Tomatoes, but it's a movie.
Yeah, it's an hour and 33-minute self-contained
with all the
story.
Same characters from beginning to end. Sure, it breaks itself up into little parts, but there's something somewhere that listed it as like a series, and that sure as shit isn't what this is.
No.
So I don't even remember if I said what it's called. Entergalactic is what we're reviewing. Would you like to tell the users what this strange thing is about?
Absolutely, yeah. Entergalactic. Jabari, a charming streetwear-clad artist on the cusp of real success. Oh, that's framed weird. God, sometimes IMDb really lets you down. With like, what? That wasn't even that's just like a statement. But anyways, Jabari is our main character. He has a chance run-in with his cool new photographer neighbor, Meadow, and he has to figure out whether he can make space for love in his life.
Right. Basically. And all of it is set to the music of Kid Cudi's new album, which is also called Entergalactic. So this is a little animated movie album tie-in experience kind of thing. They don't sing in the movie, but it's like the album is the soundtrack to the movie.
Yeah, and there's a lot of kind of montages and like I don't know if every song from the new album is in the movie, but it feels like
I think every song in the movie is from the album, though.
That's true for sure, yeah. And it definitely, it feels like the movie and the album they are meant to be cohesive. This whole thing is meant to, as if like he kind of conceived the whole idea, like maybe as he was working on the album, or maybe even before. I mean, who knows? But it definitely has. It has kind of, and that in some ways, it kind of feels almost like Tommy or like The Wall, right? Kind of, like a rock opera almost, where it's like the whole point is the music, and this is just like a visual way to make you really feel it. But it's also like it doesn't commit that hard the way that Tommy does or The Wall does. It doesn't commit that hard. It's just always the music in the background, and I don't know. It's very interesting. It is hard to define. It's not. I wouldn't call it a musical, but it's definitely not a straightforward movie in the classic sense.
Which I think is important to understand, because the story in the movie itself is, I think, like nothing special, really. It's a very bare bones, kind of by the numbers. I don't even want to call it a romantic comedy, I guess, is kind of what you'd call it.
Yeah, kind of
a romance story, but
romance, and like also kind of not like coming of age, because he's like an adult, but it's kind of like
it mixes
realizing what's important in life type of story.
Yeah, right. And the three main voices in the movie, there's really two, but there's a third one that I want to mention because it's a way more famous actor than you'd expect for this little role. Kid Cudi voices Jabari, which is not surprising. Jessica Williams voices Meadow Watson, who is his photographer neighbor and the primary love interest in this movie. And then, he's got a few friends. She's got a friend. There are a few other people that show up in the movie. One of Kid Cudi's friends, or Jabari's friends in this movie, is named Jimmy, and he's voiced by Timothee Chalamet.
And I didn't know that until after watching it.
Okay, did the voice sound familiar to you?
No, I mean, not so distinct.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if it would have been like, Christopher Walken or something, I probably would have pulled it. But no, he just plays his friend Jimmy, who's just kind of like one of his friends who's kind of a stoner and is always kind of has some wacky ideas, some good comedic lines. But yeah, I didn't. That was very surprising for me to see that Timothee Chalamet was the voice of Jimmy, as well as Christopher Abbott, who was in a movie we just watched, On the Count of Three, was the voice of Reed. Ty Dolla Sign, the rapper, is the voice of his friend Kai, and then Keith David steps in. You know, he has a great voice as the
Yep,
voice of Mr. Rager, which is his kind of
that's right.
his character he created for his graffiti, soon to be comic book career.
And then also Vanessa Hudgens is in it. She was last year, played a pretty important role in Tick Tick Boom.
Mm-hmm.
So it
Oh,
has a
Jaden Smith and Macaulay Culkin also
what?
have. Yeah, Jaden Smith is the
Wow.
voice of Jordan, and Macaulay Culkin is Downtown Pat.
Oh, how could we forget Downtown Pat? That's a great name, by the way.
That is. No,
I
that
wish
really
I knew
is.
somebody named Downtown Pat. It sounds
Hmm.
like you live a cool life if you have a friend named Downtown Pat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but the point I was getting at was the story is there's nothing special about the story. It hits kind of the beats and the cliches you expect of a story like that, and I think it's important to know that that's not necessarily the main driving point of this project
Hmm.
because this is animated in a very interesting style that at least from the way the characters are animated looks like a little bit like B level Spider-Verse.
Yeah, like from
But
the. Yeah, yeah.
but then for me at least the way they animated the city was stunning, and like the
Hmm.
landscapes and the buildings, and they kind of go into some like dream sequences like in the cosmos and like in the sky and clouds and stuff. All of that I thought was really really cool. And then of course his album is playing during this movie. So there are a
Hmm.
lot of different reasons I think to watch this, and you can get a lot of different things out of it. How well each one of those three areas works, I think the mileage is going to vary depending on who you are and what you care about as far as a movie goes.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of interesting because I went in pretty blind on this one. You had kind of told me that this was out, Kid Cudi was involved, it's animated, and then, I threw it on pretty blind. And I would say I was surprised how, with a name like Entergalactic and this animation style, and really leaning into these kind of crazy dream sequences and just like colorful animation, the story itself, like plot wise, is very like grounded and simple.
Yeah,
Like, and so that was interesting because I kept kind of thinking, as the movie went on, I'm like, okay, is it about to take a weird turn where he gets like put in another dimension, or he gets put? I was like, is
sure.
this gonna like blast off into some area? And it's like, no, we're gonna stay like right here at ground level. We're just gonna have really pretty backgrounds and like really interesting music, and it's just gonna kind of be like an artistic vision. But the actual, what actually happens and like his character development and it is very basic. I mean, it's a 90-minute movie, and you can probably pretty much see where it's going almost from the beginning, kind of. It's not
Right.
going to shock you that way, but it's
No,
just relying on everything else, the aesthetic and the moods to kind of make it unique and different.
for sure. Where it may shock you is, I mean, if you pay attention, this has to be R-rated. This is very much adult animation, but anytime animation is involved, the expectation right off the bat is that it's going to be G or PG rated and be for kids or for everyone or whatever. But this
Yeah.
is very much just like a regular R-rated romance movie.
Yeah, IMDb has it as TVMA, so I guess since it was
Sure.
straight to
Yep.
Netflix, but yes,
Yep.
it's for mature audiences.
Yeah.
And personally, I felt like it was really, we're as we get older, it seems like there's more and more movies that are catering specifically to us and our age group. It really
Yeah.
felt like almost like all the characters in this are like my age. Like
Yeah, for
not
sure.
like younger in their 20s still making mistakes, and not older, and they're like right in where I'm at, and like with the references and the music they're listening to, and just kind of like um the decisions that they have to make, or like who they are as it just all very much felt like, I was born in 1990, and it felt just like every other character in this was also born in 1990
Yeah.
or
Or
like right around then.
between like 88 and 92, like
Yes.
everybody.
Yeah. And so in that way, yeah, it's not for kids. I feel like it's for like
For
us,
sure.
like our
Yeah.
generation. We're the target audience, and
I
we can
totally
relate
agree.
to the
And
jokes, the
again,
music.
this is based off an album that he made that's probably for people our age anyway.
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting project, and it, I don't know. There's a lot going on here, and also not that much at the same time
Yeah.
because the story is so simple. But I just loved looking at this.
Me too.
I mean, there were like 5 or 6 shots of the city that I
Hmm.
just instantly was like, oh, that should just be like a desktop background
Yeah,
right there.
for sure.
This,
Or even like a poster, like
yeah,
just this
that
cool,
too.
colorful city.
The color palette they chose for this and like the colors that are going on here and just the way that they animated the way the city looks. I think it's one of the coolest looking New York cities I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's definitely got some of that like Spider-Verse quality, but like you said, when it comes to the city itself, it's a little more like refined and also kind of just like you said, the color palette is very kind of welcoming. It's very kind of like a lot of like, deep purple tones and
It's
kind
warm.
warm, yeah, like it's all like basking in the glow of like the city, and it's a bright thing. It's not like a dark thing to be feared. It's like, I love the scene when him and his friends go out on the town, basically that
Yeah.
montage where they go from one bar to another bar to a club to whatever, and every place they went looked like so cool. And
Yeah.
like,
I was like, God, I don't even do these kinds of things, but I feel like joining them would be really fun.
yeah, like they're having a great time, like, and a
Mhm.
lot of great shots of someone walking down like the middle of a street or biking down the middle of the street. The biking montages were cool, whether it's,
Yeah.
like him and Meadow,
Total
like,
advantage of not having to have real people do those tricks.
yeah. Oh yeah, and that
They're
was
doing
cool.
like flips in the middle of the road.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Just a little bit of like stretching reality. When
Yeah.
he's on the bike and he's got like the ramen noodles and he slams on and they go from like his backpack up to the front and then he catches them. Like, like, okay, that's a little like that's some cartoonish type of stuff that wouldn't be in a
Yeah.
real, obviously, live action movie. Um, and then yeah, I felt like just the themes and a lot of the jokes. Like, I guess, how did you feel like humor wise this was? Because I feel like they definitely a lot of the jokes were very much catered to our age group. It was a lot of
They
jokes about
were,
like dating apps and the type of shenanigans that people our age get into, that type of stuff.
yeah, in that sense, I felt like the story was a little, and the jokes were very hit or miss. And kind of some of the themes of this felt a little bit like, particularly talking kind of the references to dating apps and where it's better to like meet somebody in real life. That felt like something that was interesting to talk about like 8 years ago.
Hmm.
And we all just kind of know that now.
Yeah, yeah,
Like it's like that part of the story. I just kind of felt like this has been done. And it
yeah. And they,
wasn't like it was bad or anything, but that's where I kind of get with the story just being like kind of what you expect it to be. And there was nothing about like the characters or the story itself that felt particularly special. Where this
mhm,
movie worked for me was just kind of the vibe of all of it, the way it looked, and generally the music fit what was going on very well and fit the aesthetic of everything as well. So I
mhm,
don't know. I felt like the script was kind of the weak point of the movie, which isn't shocking because this was made by Kid Cudi, who
mhm.
doesn't make movies. And I mean, I don't think he wrote the script, but he's
Yeah,
one of
but
the writers. There are 6 listed writers here. So,
okay, yeah, and he executive produced it.
right.
He's the voice for the main character.
Hmm.
I can imagine he was very involved in a lot of it. Yeah, I would say, like, to go to your point, like, I'll bring up an example of a joke that I felt was effective, and then one that wasn't. Like, there's a point where Meadow texts her friend because she finally asked Jabari out to go get lunch, and she texts her friend like, "Guess who just asked the neighbor to go get lunch?" And it shows you the text. It
Oh,
shows you
yeah,
on the
yeah.
screen her typing it out, and then her friend's reply is a GIF. It's like the
Yeah.
Meryl Streep gif of like
Yeah.
pointing and like,
That I did like
and
that.
and that felt very like modern and very much like, oh, we've seen a lot of movies where they show you the type and the text, but now they're showing you like, oh yeah, people just communicate in gifs now. Like, that one I didn't see coming, and that made me smile. But then also they have a running joke of like, throughout the course of the romantic stuff, there'll be like an ad for the dating app,
Oh,
Stushy or
yeah.
whatever it's called, and like the words on the billboard will fit with what he's going through right now. and they went back to that like 3 or 4 times, and to your point, every time it just felt like, I don't know, it didn't actually feel that original, and it kind of
Right.
got tired after a while. So it's like there were moments where it was very modern and unique, and I felt that originality, and there was other ones like you said where it's like, okay, like yeah, we know like hookup apps suck, like
Yeah, right.
like, um so yeah, I would say hit or miss on the comedy. Some of the lines definitely got me though. And now
Yeah.
honestly knowing that Timothée Chalamet was the voice of Jimmy kind of makes his comedic lines hit a little bit harder.
Yeah, I knew that going in, so he made me laugh a few times just thinking of it being Timothée Chalamet was kind of amusing.
Yeah. um
Anything else, or you want to dive into the stars?
I guess yeah, I just would add that I hadn't listened to any of Kid Cudi's album before this, so this was my first time hearing all these songs, and
Yep.
I genuinely enjoyed the music a lot. I mean, I like most people, or at least that I've talked to, it's like obviously Kid Cudi's first album and first couple albums were like filled with hits and game changers and like songs that all of us know by heart. But then he had some albums that I guess I wasn't really feeling as much, or it just felt like he kind of was still trying to find, he was trying to evolve as an artist but wasn't sure which direction to go. But I felt like the music in this one it gave me that classic Cudi vibe, a lot of catchy stuff, a lot of like
Yep.
cool beats. I don't know, so I liked the music a lot
Yeah, he's
going
had an
in.
interesting year starring in X and a producer on Pearl. And
Hmm.
then this, it's kind of, I hadn't heard from him, I felt like, in a while. And now he's just kind of everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like he kind of tried to maybe show that with the Mister Rager character and like the look of the character, because Mister Rager, it's this graffiti character which has a one distinct look, but he's kind of pushed or inspired to give him a new look now that he's going to be transitioning to comic books, and it's almost like it's a different character with like the white suit and everything. And I feel like maybe that's how he feels in his own life, that maybe he's found this new lane, this new kind of way to express himself, which is more visual and more tied in with movies and stuff. And so far, I'm liking it.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting path that he seems to be going down here. And I'm curious to see where it goes.
All right, yeah, let's get to the stars.
We will be right back with our star rating. Okay. I can go first if you'd
Go for
like.
it.
So I'm going to give this movie 3 out of 5 stars. I think overall it was a good viewing experience. The story and the scripts left something to be desired for me, but just kind of the feel of it and combining with the look, which is amazing, and the music, I enjoyed my time watching this, even if there were moments in the script and with the characters that I felt like, okay, I've seen this before, or like this scene doesn't really need to be here, or this bit has gone on a little bit too long. It's not to
Mm-hmm.
say it was all bad. I agree with you. There were points where I laughed. There were points where I thought this scene is fantastic, but the script was
Mm-hmm.
definitely inconsistent. But overall, I think it was a good movie, and it was just an interesting thing. And Netflix seems like the perfect place for this.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think this necessarily has the. I don't know if this could have pulled off any sort of theatrical run. And I
Even it would
also,
feel weird if it was on like Prime.
yeah, yeah. This feels very perfect for Netflix. So good for them for pulling that off.
Yeah.
Um, on to me then.
Yep.
All right, I am going to go slightly higher than you. I'm going to give this a strong 3.5 out of 5. When it ended, right when it ended, I was definitely leaning almost 4, because
Okay.
I felt like it was it was a very modern, chilled out, made like almost like curated for me or like someone my age version of like Tommy or The Wall. Like it's not as ambitious as those. It's not trying to plumb the same depths and like make its mark on the culture the way that other, or even like Purple Rain, right? When
Yeah.
there's definitely been times when musical artists, they decide like, no, we're gonna make a whole movie of this album and it's gonna be this immersive, mind-blowing experience, and we're gonna like it's gonna be deep and heavy, whereas this just felt like, nah man, let's do that, but let's just chill, and let's just like
Yep.
let's just put on some music and like bike around the city and like be, and just try to be happy. And it was very uplifting and chill, and I really liked that. It just felt in a lot of ways, I mean, even down to the fact that like Meadows' last name is Watson. I was like, oh, come on, Kid Cudi. It's like, what is going on right now? Like, this is too much. I just felt like this was right up my alley. It would have been hard for me not to like this, and going in pretty much blind and not really knowing anything about it before you had mentioned it a few days ago, I was very pleasantly surprised. I had a great time, and I would rewatch this again, and I think it would still be a good time because even though the story is simple, it's almost like we mentioned, it's not necessarily about about the plot.
Right.
It's more of the whole thing is it's a vision. It's a project. It's an art project of sorts. And so you just need to
Yep.
look at it that way as opposed to like your textbook, like, as a movie, what is it doing? What is it not doing? Character arcs. So yeah, I really liked it. I had a great time. Strong 3.5. I think it's one of my like guilty pleasures so far of the year, where I bet a lot of people haven't seen it, but at the end of the year, like, I don't know. If I watch it again and I have a good time again, it might find a way to creep itself up in my year-long rankings, and I'll be recommending this maybe not to everybody, but like everybody like my age, anybody who listened to Kid Cudi in high school. I'm probably going to recommend this.
Yeah.
Like, don't know if my
Yeah,
parents would
it's worth
like it.
checking out for sure if you're a kid.
I, I don't know if my parents would like it, but I bet most of my friends would like it. You know, so
Yeah, if you're a Kid
um,
Cudi fan too, I think it's definitely worth checking out.
for sure, for sure. So yeah, strong 3.5 from me.
All right. So that's a 3 from me and a 3.5 from Dylan. And I
Hmm.
believe it is my turn to put a wrap on the show.
All right, take it away, Nate.
You can never do anything by half.